and welcome to the channel. And today's video is you can say a part 2 and looking at the 40th anniversary Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con 2-pack exclusive of the 40th anniversary He-Man and Skeletor. So here we are looking at the Skeletor. First we're going to start off looking at the Skeletor himself, his accessories, and then we'll do some comparisons. So a lot of people were not completely shocked, but were a little bit, but I think also were a bit surprised, pleasantly surprised when they announced the 2-pack or the exclusive that was going to be for Comic-Con, that they included a Skeletor and that they also gave Skeletor a rework. Because again, a lot of people speculated, when they first announced the 40th anniversary version of He-Man, the retail version, when the images came out, obviously a lot of people were like, well, okay, where's the Skeletor? So I guess they waited. They were gonna wait until after Comic-Con. Oh, I'm sorry. They were gonna wait for Comic-Con to reveal the 40th anniversary version of Skeletor. So I'm sure this version is gonna come out in retail. They just haven't announced it yet, and as of this date. So I'm pretty sure this is gonna come out, together with the He-Man. They just haven't said when they're gonna come out. So let's take a look first at Skeletor's accessories, or should we start with the figure itself? Yeah, let's start with the accessories. So here's a look at Skeletor's Havoc staff. At first I wasn't sure which version they were using for inspiration, and we'll take a look with the accessories from the other figures, and we'll see which one's the one that they're using. This guy is heavy, despite the only die-cast part is the ram head. The horns are not die-cast. Come on, focus. You can see the detail there on the skull. So this is just the only part that's die-cast. The horns are plastic, and obviously the staff is plastic. If everything was die-cast, this thing would weigh a ton. He holds it up pretty well, so that's good. A lot of the versions of Skeletor, the retail version of the Masterverse, has had issues with loose joints. So this one came with pretty tight joints, so he holds the Havoc staff nicely. And then this is his power sword, which is the exact power sword used for the He-Man, and as we saw in that video, which is based off of the design they used for the Viking He-Man sword, power sword. Except this is in purple, inspired by the vintage figure. So I don't have my original vintage Skeletor. The only vintage figures that I was able to save from childhood was the original He-Man and the original Battle Armor He-Man. But to compare him with anything vintage style, I'm gonna bring in the Origins Skeletor, and you're gonna see again the Origins is based off of the original Skeletor, right? So one thing you're gonna notice is the head that he's got on right now. I'm gonna swap it in just a little bit, but he does have the Revelations head sculpt on, because as some of you may know by now, but for those who don't, I did a custom on the Revelations Skeletor. I did a head swap and gave him his head for that custom, which you're gonna see in just a second. So let's do this right now. Okay, there you go. So the colors won't match because it's been customized, but that's basically the original Origins head. That's not the head inspired by the original figure. So that's the first version of the head. I never got one from the. I never got the original style head sculpt version. I'm actually fine with this one, so that's why I never bothered to get the that second version of the classic. But here you can see. Let's compare. I'm not even compare the swords because it's the same. The power sword that came with him is the same that came with the He-Man, and we've already done that comparison before. So we're just gonna take a look at his Havoc staff and how they compare with each other, right? And how they draw inspiration from one another. Let's try and focus. I may do on this guy. I may drill out, give him drill out these, just to keep the horns looking more like this, and just remove all of that excess plastic in there. But that's how the original toy was molded like. But you can see how this is definitely inspired by the original toy, right? Except that it's got a little more detail on it. Come on, focus. There you go. And then just comparing the figures itself, you can see how the feet are pretty much the same. The boots are a little different. This one's got a little something extra here, as opposed to this. This is just one clean boot. You can see the harness, how the harness looks to one another. Let's just get a little closer here. Right, how everything else looks pretty much really close. A lot more closer than I think that they got with the He-Man harness. Because again, the only difference on the He-Man harness is that the squares didn't go all the way around. They only used 3 on each side. But this is pretty much the same harness as the one that this version has. And then his loincloth belt thing, it's the exact same thing, just a little more detailed on this one. But you can see the forearms, how they are shaped. A closer look at the feet. All right. There we go. I don't know why I always pull this side towards that side. But anyway, and then the head sculpts themselves, you can see the difference here. This is definitely a reinterpretation, just like they did on the He-Man, a reinterpretation of the modern, of the vintage head, with the paint scheme and everything. Of course, this one does have the working jaw, right? So you can give them an open mouth like this, or a closed mouth. It does hang loose naturally, so it's almost resembling this. But you can see how the hoods look and everything. And of course, the big thing is the body style. They gave him the same body, upper body as the He-Man. The He-Man uses the inspiration from the original body buck. So again, we're not gonna compare this to this as by removing the harnesses just yet, because we already saw that with He-Man. So let's bring in some modern versions of Skeletor here. First, let's bring in this version of Skeletor. So this is the most recent release that we've got. So this is the barbarian Skeletor. But as mentioned in a previous video, I gave him the head that I had used. This is the same one we just saw on the Origins. I had given him the head for the custom that I had done on the original Revelations Skeletor, because I gave him the head that comes with this body. But you can see how this version compares to the 40th. It looks like they have the similar style loincloth. Belt design and everything, except this is you can see how what I mean by the mainline versions are a little loose. They can't hold on to their weapons. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, so this is the same Havoc staff. Okay, so the Havoc staff that comes with the Barbarian Skeletor is the same Havoc staff that they used for the 40th. Okay, and then the Barbarian Skeletor came with this sword. I forget what this is called. What is this called? Scimitar, if I remember something like that. And then just for comparison, definitely not inspired by this at all, right? So this is just a different style sword. I forget what this is based off of, what story, but I believe from the original sketches from a long time ago. But yeah, nothing in relation to the power sword, right? But again, comparing power swords, this is the power sword from the original Revelation style sword that I repainted. I mentioned that I repainted it from the Faker sword. So just to reminisce, just to give it that purple hit, going back to the original power sword of the figure. So now you can see here, if we remove this harness from the figure, we're gonna compare the bodies, the upper body. Again, even though it's the same as the Revelations He-Man. It's worth taking a second look in case you haven't seen that video just yet. But you can see the difference in the upper body that the 40th anniversary version has, that a lot of people prefer because of the wider chest, right? But everything else, aside from like designs for like the boots and everything, they're exactly the everything else is the same except for the upper body. Again, one thing that I want to mention, I wish they would have given him a wider neck. Although with Skeletor, it's less of a visible issue because of the hood, since it goes down and it hides the neck, right? But on a regular figure, the tiny neck does become a problem. So there's that. I'm just seeing what else. Oh, when I was removing the harnesses, I noticed that these go on and look very close to one another. So this is the Viking harness. I'm sorry, Barbarian harness, 40th anniversary. When you're looking from the back, you can see how they probably took this same mold and just did a few changes, because they also hold the sword sideways. They did a good job with the Barbarian Skeletor, in my opinion. If you want a more, if you don't like the original Revelations Skeletor, the that Barbarian Skeletor is an excellent option for a classic style Skeletor. Speaking of which, so let's bring in that original body from the Revelation. You can see here you can see that. Well, let's try one thing real quick, since I already got the head that is off. So that's what that head looks like on this body, right? So if you want to use, when they release the retail version of the 40th anniversary Skeletor, if you want to use one of the heads from the Origins line, that's what that looks like, which doesn't look too bad. Same as the He-Man head, right? And then let's swap this out and put on the alternate head that came with the Viking. I'm sorry, I keep messing them up. The Barbarian Skeletor. You know, that doesn't look too bad either, right? A Skeletor that is ready to go to war, a little more aged, you could say, even with, because he's got that beard, that goatee going on. So let's bring in, like I said, let's bring in that original Revelation Skeletor that I customized. He actually does have the extra shoulder harness from the Barbarian Skeletor and his head, right? So let's compare the 40th versus the Barbarian Skeletor. So the Barbarian Skeletor head was definitely inspired by the original head, as mentioned, also from mentioned in the He-Man video. And it was reworked a little bit, and you can see how how these two compare with one another, right? So again, getting the Barbarian Skeletor is a nice alternative to getting a closer vintage inspired Skeletor. The only thing, the difference is, of course, the boots don't match, the feet don't match, even though he does have only 3 toes, but they're not in the same shape, right? Um, but other than that, um, he does look good with that head sculpt, in my opinion. Um, One thing I want to try though, and let's see how if it fits. Let's see if this shoulder piece fits on this guy. And let's see how this looks. Don't know why he's leaning that way. That doesn't look too bad either, in my opinion. You can have him be a little more regal, right? You can, like I said, you can get the a second version of this body when it releases, the retail version, and you can do some swapping of parts. Even let's put on the the new modern head sculpt on this guy. Probably the retail version won't have the working jaw. So there's that look. I think this head is still, let's see. I think that head's smaller than this one. Yeah, it's still a little smaller. Let's, yeah, dimensions. The dimensions are, this is a little narrower. You can see how wide this one is. Yeah, definitely a smaller head, but still better than, I think, still better than this. This isn't bad. It's just the size is just way too small. Actually, let's see how this looks. Yeah, it's the same thing with the He-Man. It's just a little too small. Um, Even on the more narrower upper body from the original sculpts that they used, the head looked small. So with this one, he just looks like that. Like that. Um, that scene in Beetlejuice where the voodoo doctor shrinks down um, Beetlejuice's head, right? It kind of reminded me of that. So there's that with the original head. Um, so yeah, I think this is a pretty good look. The Barbarian Skeletor is definitely an alternative, and even the skin tone, even though it's not the same, it's pretty close. Right, definitely more bluish. This is definitely more aqua. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty good. Oh, and let's just compare the Havoc staff from the original release with the 40th. It's actually a pretty cool looking Havoc staff. If they had used this, probably this head staff, its head sculpt, with this shaft, would have been a good choice as well. But they went with the complete version that came with the the Viking Barbarian Skeletor, right? And let's see what else. Well, I guess that's all that I've got. Just let's give him his weapons, just to see how he looks holding them. The Skeletor does not come with the hinge that enables him to go up and down, just side to side. Like the He-Man, only He-Man has the hinge that allows him to hold the sword up in that power of Grayskull pose, right? So you can see here what I mean. This Skeletor has better tolerances on his joints, so he's able to hold the Havoc staff up better. Probably could have held it up if the entire thing was die cast, but I think this is a better decision just to do the head in die cast, and then this just a sword. So you can even see there's a slight spring because of how tight the tolerances are on this one. Although he is leaning towards this side, I don't know why. Let's just put it like this then. Or just remove it completely then. There you go. So there's a look at Skeletor from the 40th anniversary 2-pack. Again, a wise decision by Mattel to release. Obviously, they were going to release a 40th anniversary Skeletor, but the changes, the version that they gave us is pretty good. Like I said earlier, I think the Barbarian Skeletor is a nice alternative if you don't want to if you can't find the 40th anniversary when it releases. I would urge you to go get the Barbarian Skeletor, which is out now. So find that. Keep that as your modern interpretation of a classic Skeletor, and then if you can get your hands on this guy, then you can do a lot of part swapping like I did, because I think that the harness with the cape looks good on this guy. The head sculpts, I think the vintage, the Origins line with the vintage head would look good. The Origins line with the modern head that they gave him, it looks pretty good. The again, the Barbarian Skeletor head sculpts all work great on this mold. The only one that doesn't look good is just the original Revelations head sculpt. Everything else is good, in my opinion. So of what they've given us from Skeletor, I think most have been a hit, except for that one misstep on the original Revelation set sculpt. So yeah, so that's it on this video. Again, let me know what you guys think. Which version do you prefer? Do you like the original Revelation Skeletor? Do you like the Barbarian Skeletor more than this version, the 40th anniversary? Which version of the mixing and matching did you like? Like I said, I actually liked this version with the cape and the extra shoulder pads. But I'm probably gonna keep that with my custom over here, as I originally shown. And but yeah, I think but hopefully going forward, Mattel does more with these body bucks, at least the upper chest. Hopefully, keep it. I wouldn't mind if they just kept it exclusive for He-Man and Skeletors. If they keep releasing figures in the or if they're gonna keep doing like special 40th anniversary, then that's fine. But going forward, if they just used that upper body for He-Man and Skeletor releases only, I think that's perfectly fine, and they can keep reusing the old buck for all of the rest of the Revelation. I'm sorry, for the Masterverse line. That's my opinion, right? So yeah, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think, and yeah, I'll check you guys out in the next one.